I was looking through all of the copyrights for Battle Planet so far, and all of the Spin Master copyrights in general. And I noticed that they let Hydronoid just go by the wayside and kick the bucket at copyright.
Really?
Yeah, it's really a shame that we won't get a Hydronoid in the new series, I guess.
Tragedy.
But on the plus side, at least we're getting praise.
Hey.
Except they haven't actually submitted evidence for that yet.
Hey.
Anyway, DM.
What up, mother puddings? Welcome to the second episode of the Bakugan Wiki Podcast. It's your boy, Darkest Master, back with these stupid idiots.
That's redundant.
I don't care.
I'm Lamar Devante, also known as Hato, and I'm the one with the subscriber count out of everybody. And you know who's next?
I'm See What I have good internet this week, hopefully.
Hi, I'm Rigatoni Jones, and welcome to Jack Pudding.
Yikes.
Anyway, we got a bit of an interesting show coming up for you this week. We're going to talk about a few things involving the wiki itself, as well as a bunch of amazing Bakugan stuff that has been found out as of very recently, as well as speculating on what we may think the rules of the game include. So,
and let's not forget those prices for the solo packs.
Stay tuned for the end of the toys section. Anyway, let's take a look at what's going on with the wiki. So some people may know that there's been quite a few projects as of late. We've had a few, and most of them have actually gone on hold. But easily the biggest thing has to be the wiki's move away from Wikia onto an independent domain.
All right. Yeah, that's been going on. The official move started, I want to say 2 weeks ago. But ever since then, we've pretty much have all of the information up on the new wiki, except for images. But that's going to be done very soon because we found a way to actually import them with some wiki tools.
So that could be done very fast.
Very quickly, because before everyone was uploading them manually, downloading and then uploading manually. But luckily, one of the members, Ren, was awesome and found a tool from the Bakugan, or not Bakugan, from Just Media Wiki's tool section.
So pretty much the reason we're kind of going about this is we want a little bit more freedom off of Wikia. A lot of wikis aren't too happy with how restrictive fandom is being, which is what everything's being turned into soon. It hasn't happened to us yet, I think.
No, actually, it hasn't happened yet.
It hasn't happened to Bakugan Wikia yet, but it's bound to happen eventually. It already started on some other wikis as of a few weeks ago. But that's one of the reasons we're not looking forward to sticking around, which is why we're leaving. But a big thing is just control of what our viewers see. If you go on to Wikia without an account and without an ad blocker, you'll just see just hideous full page / banner ads covering almost the entire screen,
which is completely ridiculous.
It's a massive eyesore. Wikia gets a ton of traffic in and of itself. So why do you need that much ad space?
And that doesn't even look bad on fandom, because most people aren't going directly to fandom to look for information. People are Googling stuff. They click on the link and they see this information and they see this full page ad just because they were redirected from Google when they look something up. So that looks bad on the wiki itself. It's not, it just affects the community, and it doesn't increase people's confidence in the information that they're seeing.
Yeah. The move to a new platform that allows us more freedom is really going to lead to a healthier community.
Like, if I want to crash the web server, on my own time, then I'll crash the web server on my own time, like the 10 times I crashed it this week on accident.
And that's the important part about the move, is that See-What-I owns the domain, and he's going to single-handedly indict Dragonoid as the eternal official mascot of Bakugan Wiki, finally.
I mean, it was a long time coming. I mean, honestly.
It only took 10 years. But also another part about the freedom is control of like what types of ads are seen. Now, obviously, this move isn't free. Domains are expensive, and depending on what kind of, I guess, package you get, prices can vary for whatever you're using it on. And that way, when we inevitably switch to putting ads on the site, which will happen at some point. That's a given. We can tailor it specifically to certain areas that we think would be fairly out of the way. Obviously, there's not going to be any massive obtrusive ads because nobody wants to see that.
Right. And going this way, ads don't have to be our only choice of monetization. I'm looking into right now kind of a small subscription plugin to where maybe people could donate money and not see ads, but I'll have to look into that more and see what's possible with MediaWiki. I'm sure it's possible, but that's just a better way of us being able to, keep the wiki up and running and not having to rely on third parties hosting it for us. So we're in complete control of the wiki right now, and all the information obviously is staying on the Wikia, but I believe I don't have confirmation on this yet, but I don't believe a lot of the Bakugan Battle Planet stuff is going up on the old wiki. For the most part, the old wiki is going to remain legacy. So if you want to see all the stuff as it was, you can go to the usual URL, bakugan.wikia.com, which will take you to the regular site as it is. Or if you want to see all the new stuff, including some of the stuff we're going to be talking about right after this, you can go to the new URL at bakugan.wiki. I believe it's in the description of every single one of our podcasts. It is, yes.
All right. So I think we've got most of that out of the way. Let's go ahead and let's talk about the toys.
All right. So can I kick this one off?
Go ahead.
Of course.
All right. So looking at the toys, obviously there have been images circulating for about a week now. Interestingly enough, I found that the images were in possession of Walmart and Amazon since the beginning of October, which is very interesting. I didn't think the toys would have been completed so soon. And that's one interesting thing.
Especially considering how little we've heard about the series at all.
Of course.
Yeah, it's really surprising.
Toys.
So that's really interesting. But I think, obviously, while the information has been around and clearly they finished these earlier than anyone thought, I think one important thing to note about the toys is that a lot of them are actually retools. So this isn't a bad thing per se, because if we take a look at the Hyderos, not the Ultra variant, because that one's different, but the original Hyderos is a retool of Bakutek's Jiba Fudo. And I think that's kind of interesting because it carves a path for the future where we're going to be having the more intricate designs. Jiba Fudo is probably one of the more basic Bakutek, in my opinion, outside of Dragaion and a few of the other no-names. But yeah, I think it's good that Spin Master's using some of their previous molds that they had. Well, those were from Sega Toys, not Spin Master, but I think that guarantees that we'll see a few more Bakutek retools, and that's great for, designs.
I love the whole idea of getting a bunch more detail thrown in there, especially what it looks like we're getting with some of the other types. So there's actually 2 different Bakugan types coming out right now, as far as we can tell. The first kind is normal Bakugan. It's the usual stuff you'd expect. But then there's also another type called Bakugan Ultra, which its mechanics, we'll go into that a little bit later, but they're much more detailed. You compare a regular and an Ultra, they're actually different molds. They're much different. And I think they're built to look like they'd sort of be what a Bakumorph almost would be. Like if you take a look at one of the Ultras, such as a Mantanoid, for example, it's essentially a retool of Mantris. But if you look at the Ultra, it looks really, really good, like an actual praying mantis. And you'd expect a Bakumorph to have that kind of detail.
It's super good. And let's not forget the third kind of Bakugan we've seen, third in heavy air quotes, Bakugan Diamond, which appears to be like the translucent / clear treatments of the past, except they work as somewhat of a special evolution in the game, which we'll be getting onto later on.
Right. So these types of Bakugan have also had some of their cards shown, specifically cards called character cards. And these types, for instance, the one for one of the Diamond Bakugan, specifically shows a diamond icon in the name. And on one of the middle sections of the card, it actually says Evo. So it actually looks like this isn't just a special treatment. It could be mechanically different in the game. How exactly that's going to work is unknown, but we can probably speculate on it later.
I think it's really interesting how they're doing that, how the crystals the diamond Bakugan are actually more significant. Because before, when we had the transparent Bakugan, it's not like they had any effect. You could just take the I think it was attribute of your opponent. Correct me if I'm wrong, but attribute of the opponent. So they weren't that special. They were almost like translucents. Very similar gameplay wise, but now they're more significant. And I find that really interesting how they finally gave a recolor some sort of actual potentially superior gameplay. So really good on Spin Master for considering that.
Speaking of potentially different gameplay, I think G-Power is now a thing of the past, because on these cards, we have not seen G-Power, but we have seen B-Power.
Speaking of a thing of the past, Subterra is no more.
Oh, so as far as we can tell, Subterra is completely gone under the dirt where it belongs.
Rest in peace to those 3 Subterra brawlers out there. I know you guys really, Aurelius basically just looks like the same thing, but with a better name.
And better color scheme.
And better color scheme, and just overall better because Subterra,
Speaking of things that are things of the past, we've been forgetting gate cards are gone. Now we have Baku cores.
How could I forget?
So what Baku cores essentially seem to be are their little hexagonal pieces of some kind of metal card, obviously, that go on the field, and you actually roll your Bakugan onto these to do this. And they apparently seem to have pretty minimal stuff on the underside of them. Like some will have a B power bonus, and others will have a couple icons. Like there's a shield, I think.
That might be for some of the one of them's on fire, and then one of them's just green.
Yes, there's 2 different types of fists, and obviously we don't know anything about these icons yet. But hopefully, as we figure out more about the toys, we'll understand a little bit more. So in addition to the Baku cores, each pack also comes with 2 cards. There's one character card, like we've discussed before. It's essentially a full picture of the Bakugan you get in the attribute you got it in. How awesome is that? We have pretty much an identifier for Bakugan now.
I wanted
not
to
on
mention
the
something about that, actually. So I was looking at the box arts, and I haven't really seen this mentioned, but I think that they're trying to make it so you know which Bakugan are anime accurate. So, for example, let's take a look at Dragonoid, Pyrus Dragonoid. On the box for Pyrus Dragonoid, it just says Drago. Well, Dragonoid, but we're shortening. But if we go to the Aurorus one, it says Aurorus Dragonoid. If we go to Pegatrix, it just says Pegatrix. Hyderos, Howlcore just says Howlcore. Some of them have the attribute and some don't have the attribute. And let's say we look at the artwork for them. It seems like it's supposed to match up with the attributes. And so it's possible that the anime accurate ones don't tell you what attribute it is for that reason, because they're anime accurate. And I think that's an interesting thing Spin Master's doing, so you know what is anime accurate and what is not.
And so far in the images we've seen, we have yet to find any bits of information that would contradict this point. So it's reasonable to believe that this is what they're going for, but of course, not confirmed. Take it with a grain of salt. It's just in our well-researched and informed opinions, we think that's how they're doing it this time.
One more thing about what's on the cards. There are abilities on the cards now, so each character card has the potential to have a special ability, and each attribute's stats and ability of a single Bakugan could be different. So Aurorus Dragonoid is different from Pyrus Dragonoid. And there's one more stat we'd like to mention. Two more, actually. So there's the glowing fist icon on the cards, which we have no idea what it could mean yet. The B power is measured in hundreds, so we're pretty sure that's the battle stat. And then the glowing fist, it might be damage. We're not sure yet. And then there are two Bakucore icons in the corner of the card that may signify which Bakukores you are allowed to bring in your deck if you use that Bakugan.
That's actually a good point. I wanted to mention something about that. For the most part, in the text of the card or in the top right of the character cards, it shows the symbols from the Bakukores that were included in the pack. So now they're being very specific with the cards, or should I say the Bakukores, since we no longer have gate cards. And I think that's pretty interesting. It does take out some of the variety and how random it is, which was good before because it wouldn't be as easy to get maybe some of the stronger cards, and it was a bit more luck-based about what you could get your hands on, maybe more duplicates. But now it seems that they're more focused on giving each Bakugan their own skill, which is something I had mentioned in one of the previous podcasts, how I want each attribute to have their own sort of ability. So maybe Darkus is a powerhouse, while Chaos relies on skill and strategy. And now they're doing that for the individual Bakugan. So I'm honestly pretty impressed with that.
It's like Spin Master's doing a good job.
It's almost like they're doing their homework. How about that? But another thing we've neglected to mention, so we've mentioned the Bakukores and the character cards. Just so everyone's clear, ability cards are coming back. They're mentioned on the packages. However, we have yet to see a picture of what the front of the cards may look like at all. So whether they will have attribute bonuses that are generic to any sort of Bakugan of a certain attribute remains to be seen. But then something else we've also noticed, or at least something I've noticed, is that the backs of the character cards and the backs of the ability cards are actually different.
Yeah, that's one thing that you mentioned, and I'm impressed that they did that. You know, because now you can actually differentiate other than just holding it in your hand and saying, hey, which one of these is heavier? But I actually like how they did that to differentiate, and they actually look pretty good with the designs that they did. So honestly, good on Spin Master for doing their homework once more.
Yeah. So we've talked a lot about the cards and the solo packs. I figure we should mention a couple other products that we have also found. First off, we have everyone's favorite Battle Arena. So feel free to discuss a little bit about that.
All right, so about the battle arena. Oh, and there goes Rigatoni.
He'll be back. There he is.
All right, so about the battle arena, it comes with an exclusive Aquos Dragonoid. And as I said before, they're using Aquos in the name. So it seems like we're not going to be having every Bakugan released in every attribute, which is a good thing because it, keeps it more to the skill based of the character cards, as that was mentioned before. And it's pretty interesting. So finally, there's an actual exclusive Bakugan, because before they would just pop in like a mutant elfin, or they would just pop in a Lumagrowl, the stuff that was so easy to get during those waves. The arena itself has these specific slots, so you could actually put them in the proper place. So very similar to the original arenas, but of course now it's for hexagons instead of rectangles. So,
and I'm not sure how big these Baku cores are either.
They look kind of small, because when you see the Bakugan standing on it, because there is that one image of the Aquos Dragonoid standing on it, it seems like maybe in diameter at longest, they're maybe about 45 millimeters. That's just my guess.
Well, all right. So that's the arena. But then another thing we noticed is battle packs are coming back. Battle packs, game packs, whatever you want to call them. However, they're not the 6-packs we actually know. They're actually 5-packs. And from what we can tell, they appear to include 3 regular Bakugan, as well as 2 Ultras.
And 10 Baku cores, and 5 character cards, and 5 ability cards.
Good stuff. Actually, so I should probably mention the prices for the arena. So the arena is $25 American. That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money for an arena and an exclusive Dragonoid. That thing's going to be money. That
is one thing that kind of disappoints me, quite honestly, because
get an arena if you want that Dragonoid.
Yeah, that's what it is, sadly enough.
Because hopefully, maybe it'll go up in price.
Then after, we have to look at the battle pack, which is $30 American. And we'll get into the prices of the other ones later on in this. But we're going to focus on the battle pack. So it comes with everything you need. So the 10 Baku cores and 5 of each type of card. And something that's kind of interesting is that it doesn't seem like they're just shoving random things into this. I don't think they did that before during Gundalian Invaders and Mectanium Surge. There's actually
they weren't random.
Yeah, there was a pattern to what was going to be in them. And they're doing the same thing now, because if we look at the Amazon listing, it says 6-pack M01, which is probably for this variant of the set. So it's good that they're actually keeping track once more.
5-pack.
It says 6-pack in the Amazon listing.
The listing says 6-pack.
Oh, it does?
5-pack assist NBL 6-pack M01, which it's interesting. But I guess 6 PK is a part of the item number. So there's that.
Yeah, that might be the case.
Okay.
I wonder if it's legacy naming from the old 6-packs. Who knows?
It
could be.
It could be. Which it honestly make a little bit of sense. Like, copy the listing and then paste it in a new listing and just tweak some stuff that needs to be different. It'd save a little bit of time.
Or maybe just using an old inventory system from when they were originally released so that they, don't have to completely rework their inventory.
Right. I wanted to mention something about this, actually. This was brought up to me by Sync Lyric from the Bakugan Wiki server. And he was saying that maybe the B powers in these Bakugan are going to be much lower than they typically would be, which would make sense because previously there was that issue where the G powers on the Baku Trinities were typically lower than the single pack Bakugan, and at rare times they'd be abnormally high. So I'm wondering if that's going to make a return now with the B powers on these.
There's always a possibility. And I'd kind of wonder what would actually happen in that case anyway. Would it make the game pack, battle pack, whatever it's called, the definitive product to buy? Or would you need to go for the solos to get something actually halfway decent?
And then don't forget about the character cards, because would they change the character cards on this? So maybe they're at a disadvantage as well. There's a lot of variants.
Ooh, that's actually something I'd like to look into myself.
I
We'll have to see
honestly,
when those come out.
I honestly don't think they'll do that, but there's always that small chance.
Of course.
They could always be Spin Master.
They could always give us more variations to track and label down.
All right, so we've been talking quite a bit about the game pack and stuff. Now, you remember we mentioned that this pack cost $30 American. When you average it out between the 5 Bakugan in there, that is essentially $6 per Bakugan. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The actual solo prices are actually a little different.
Yes. So I had been looking around, and while it's not on the Walmart site and there's not even listings on Amazon for it currently as we're recording this podcast, I was able to dig around a bit, and this is exclusive to the Bakugan Wiki Podcast. You're hearing it here first, and this is where you'll probably hear about it if it goes anywhere else. We have the prices for the regular Bakugan and the deluxe Bakugan.
Now, we should probably mention where we actually found them, just so it's not just like, basically how we found them was, well, Hado can give a rough estimate of how he found them and where they're actually from.
So I was searching around and I was able to grab the UPCs, the barcodes off of the Walmart sites, which isn't hard to do. There's a few different ways you can do it. I'm not going to get into it because this is a Bakugan podcast, not the Walmart podcast. And I took that and I threw it into a website to get information, to retrieve different things regarding the actual information of the product. And that's how I got this. So I guess I will say the prices here. The source for this is Walmart. It's not public. It was something that I had done myself, but it is, if you look hard enough, as in very hard, and jump between any website you can find this.
This information is also on Target's servers, so the prices are the same on both.
Thank you for reminding me.
Yeah, they're not public on Target, but if you find the, I forget exactly what Target calls it, but the identifier, the identifier for Target system, it will come up and the prices are the same as the Walmart system. But anyway, prices.
So the prices is $6.99 American dollars for a regular Bakugan, which is a bit up, as I believe they used to be $5 American dollars. So that's a $2 increase right there. And now deluxes. This is where, when I first found out, my heart sank, because deluxes cost $9.99 US dollars. So let's just say $10 for that. And that's a lot. I believe special attacks have been $8 American dollars. I could be wrong, but I believe they were about $7 to $8 American dollars. And that's another $2 increase. So these Bakugan are becoming so much more expensive. Well, not so much more, but again, $2 increase. And I guess there's been inflation over the years since Bakugan.
Yeah, but it actually hasn't been that bad. See what I actually looked into it a little bit.
Yeah, if we're going to talk about inflation, $5 in 2012 when the series ended would be $5.50 today. So even though Mectanium Surge, I don't believe was $5, even if it would have been $5 during Mectanium Surge, it's only about $1.50 more.
We also have to remember that these Bakugan look pretty detailed and honestly really great. And the Bakugan Ultra might carry the gimmick of flipping over the Baku cores, similar to the core gimmick of turning Mech Hard.
Or Mech Hard, as it's known outside of Korea.
Well, that's actually just in America because, Canada and Australia have it as turning Mech Hard.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are 2 dubs of it.
All right, I will shut my mouth then.
Thank you. That's a good point. Let's see what I brought up, that they could flip the Baku core, because on the arena, it actually shows the Mantanoid Ultra flipping over the Bakucore, which is really interesting. I did not expect that at all, but it's good that they use Bakukores because they are smaller, probably more lightweight. So it's easier to have a mechanism that allows for a Bakugan to pick it up and completely turn it over.
It actually makes me kind of wonder, that whole flipping thing. I wonder if that could have been the true reason behind the lawsuit against Mechard. Could that have been the true reason? Do we know when
That's a good point.
this whole flipping mechanism was patented by both companies?
I don't think any of them patented a flipping mechanism. I would have to go through the patent for Bakugan, but they never updated the image for it. They've actually kept it as Reaper since 2007 when it was first published, if I remember correctly. So it would be hard to track that down because there have been no graphical updates.
So I wonder if there's a chance that when Mechard sees this, they could probably countersue for taking their mechanism.
I think
unless they don't even have it.
If we look at Ghost Mechard, which has literally stolen Bakugan designs, they stole Trifalco as well as Blast Elico. I don't think they would really want to risk going after Spin Master when they have blatantly stolen designs as well.
Yeah, that's fair.
Right. What do you guys think of these prices? Because, See What I and Rigatoni, y'all have been pretty silent.
Well, I don't think it's too big of a deal. It's only like $2, $1.50, technically more. So as long as the battle pack G power isn't severely limited, then honestly, the battle packs are a really good deal. And as long as there's enough variety of them, people will probably just pick those up anyway, which is probably what Spin Master wants at that price point.
Yeah, seriously. If you want to expand your collection, battle packs the way to go. As long as there's enough variety.
With See What I on his comment about the price point, because I guess it's fair for the Americans. It still is a bit on a more of the pricier premium price point, but it's going to hurt me a bit more because I'm in Canada. Our Canadian dollar has been sinking as of recent. One American is 77 Canadian is equal to $1 American. That's not good for us. I think regulars may cost us 10 Canadian, while the deluxes could be 13 to 15 Canadian. And that's going to hurt me more because, obviously we have to consider how much do you make, and that minimum wage is now around $15 here. But then again, just putting it into a bit of perspective with that, again, it is still a bit of money and it's a premium price point. It's going to hurt me a bit more. So if I wanted to buy a battle pack, I'm expecting that to be 40 Canadian dollars, quite honestly. And, that's really going to hurt me the most.
The design language that they seem to be looking at for these new Bakugan kind of justifies the increased price, especially for the Ultras, considering it has to be a completely different mold. But it is going to suck a little bit.
I think we should also consider the long run, because as we remember, as we went from Battle Brawlers to New Destroyer, the price point was the same. We went from New Destroyer to Gundalian Invaders, and it went up a bit. And then from Gundalian Invaders to Mectanium Surge to Mectanium Surge to Arc 2 of Mectanium Surge, the price just kept going up. And we have to remember, we start at this premium price point and we go even more luxurious.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good point. But as for right now, I'm staying cautiously optimistic about those price points because of what we've seen so far. They look very high quality and worth the price, but you bring up that good point of the price point increasing over time as they refine and make more complex designs.
Right, so who knows if maybe in future seasons if the price will go up as the designs get more intricate. But anyway, I think we've probably talked enough about the toys and prices. Let's go on to what we think the game rules might be.
So I've been doing a lot of diving into what could all of the symbols on the card possibly mean, and what could the game possibly play like. And I've come up with something. With the gate card system gone, there's no longer a way to land 2 Bakugan on one single magnetic object. So instead, I theorize, because the character cards for Bakugan have a kind of turn the card sideways, which is the TCG shorthand for activate a card's action, with a hexagonal icon with a lightning bolt in it. I think you roll out the Bakugan, collect a hexagon, one of the Baku cores, and then you're allowed to attack with that Bakugan by turning it sideways, and maybe attack an opposing Bakugan that's also active, or maybe just even any opposing Bakugan, or maybe it will be like a Magic the Gathering guard system.
This sounds like Puzzles and Dragons, except with Bakugan.
Maybe. But something I've also thought is that maybe those fist icons, instead of damage, are mana for ability cards?
I mean, we haven't seen what the ability cards even are yet, so that's very possible. It's a chance they could be similar to the power level mechanic they tried to introduce in Gundalian Invaders. Though I'd be a little, I don't know what the word would be to see how they would implement that like that.
A little bit on edge?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sure, but it looks like they're going for an actual game this time, unlike the original, which was really just a mess of rules. Landing 2 Bakugans on a gate card to trigger a battle raised up a whole bunch of rules that involved like double standing and critical KOs.
Critical hits as well.
Yeah.
God, you want to confuse someone on the original game, just bring up the concept of a critical hit. I have talked to many people about that, and not a single person was really too sure on what it was supposed to be. Like, some people would think that, okay, so if you knock the Bakugan off the card, you get to keep the card, right? But it's like, only if your Bakugan stands on the card, which it probably won't, because that's actually fairly hard to do. But
yeah.
And that's a critical KO anyway. Critical hits are always just like, okay, why are they even there? I mean, I get it if you want to do that and just take one of your opponent's Bakugan off the field. That's a way you can take care of that. But yeah, critical hits just weren't necessarily a great idea. Double stands, the whole idea with that was 2 of your own Bakugan on the card wins you that card. So it's like, what even happens? Do your 2 Bakugan battle each other and you win either way? How does that work?
Yeah, well, I think one thing about this is that if we look at the image of the arena, it shows the Baku cores lined up around, not really touching each other. And I think that's pretty good, because before the box showed all the gate cards touching each other because that was necessary by the rules. And now Spitmaster obviously knows that they need to change up how they advertise so it's a bit more accurate. And it seems like there's a bit more freedom to where you can actually place your Baku cores, which I think is great, because now you're not exactly limited to where you need to go, which before you were always shooting in a straight line, but now you have to kind of curve your path. And also, let's say you spin your Bakugan, you have a higher chance of hitting something that maybe you weren't aiming for. So I'm really glad with the freedom they took in the battle arena.
Yeah, and something that I really like the idea of is that now purposefully missing isn't a good move, because in the original game you could just purposefully miss then battle that Bakugan, or like force battles everywhere, and purposefully missing was just a good idea in general. But now, like it seems as if you don't hit with your Bakugan, now change from the terminology popping out or leaping out, it seems for Bakugan Ultra, it seems as if you can't attack with that Bakugan. So meaning missing is a bad thing, which is great.
Yeah, because in the old game, strategic misses also helped you recycle Bakugan you've already used, because a strategic miss could help you recycle your entire used pile and get you something back extremely early.
Oh, that reminds me of something that I want to mention during this segment, is that the battle packs have always included things you would need. So I believe there's a battle pack for Gandalian Invaders, which had 2 pieces of battle gear and then 3 Bakugan. And that's because you could use, that was the limit for what you could use. Well, now they're including 5 Bakugan in the battle pack, 2 Ultras and 3 regular. So maybe you can have a total of 5 Bakugan with the maximum for regulars being 3 and then the maximum for deluxes being 2. So they're increasing the amount of Bakugan you can have, which is kind of interesting because it allows for much more variety and it's not just constantly switching between the same 3. Now they're forcing you to go between 5, 2 of which may be stronger, the Ultras, and then the other 3.
From what we've seen from Ultra's B powers, which we have seen to Garganoids and then
Maxitor.
Hydorus.
And there's Maxitor, don't forget.
Oh, yeah, and Maxitor. Wait, what was Maxitor's?
What do you mean?
Maxitor's B power.
I thought I saw the B power on it, but maybe I'm wrong about that. I can just double check.
So the B powers for both of those Ultras were 400 and 600, and the evolution, Diamond Dragonoid, was 900 B power. So I'm not sure that they're actually evolutions, and instead just regular Bakugan that you can use with a cool gimmick.
Actually, kind of speaking of gimmicks, I want to touch on something that I don't even think we've discussed in private at all. Do you remember how in the initial reveal, the initial official reveal for Battle Planet, it mentioned how the game would have different play styles for beginners and more advanced players?
Yeah, I remember that.
With what we know now, how do you guys think that'll actually work?
I'm thinking it's probably going to be number of Bakugan because they seem to be putting a lot of focus into the solo packs. We haven't seen any multi-packs besides the battle pack so far. That could change, but I think it'll probably have to do with how many Bakugan and how many cores and how many abilities and everything that you bring to your team.
What I think is the beginner rules, it would simply just be a normal game, maybe with less Bakugan, but you still use the character cards and the Baku cores. No ability cards, which would make sense for a beginner game.
Yeah, because ability cards could easily complicate some things. I mean, we've noticed that in just regular Bakugan, there are some cards which are horribly contentious. And hopefully, if these ability cards in the new game are like that as well, I hope they're not. Spin Master, if you're listening to this, redesign your ability cards if you need to, please. Yeah, if they're complicated, a beginner wouldn't really want to my head with all of their stupid cards. So maybe leaving ability cards out of a format for beginners would probably be good.
Yeah, I think that's a good point that they would maybe just remove ability cards. Then again, ability cards are a core part of the game. I think it's really hard to say what is beginner and what is advanced. I think beginner may just be regular Bakugan rules, while advanced goes further with maybe the big game rules. Because obviously that requires you to use a bit more thinking about how you would use your ability cards, and you can spam them, of course. But I feel like that may be what they consider advanced per se.
I wonder if advanced could be where the ultras are used.
That's a really good point. I was going to say that they are, on the shelf with the other stuff. But of course, if we look at maybe Beyblade with their Switch Strike line, which is kind of like the more advanced Beyblades in that they're also on the shelf. But that's a really good point you bring because, yeah, maybe advanced is what the ultras are. So really good point there.
Yeah. So
I don't think that would be the case, but because that would be limiting entire line of Bakugan from being used in the normal game or beginner game.
But let's also kind of consider the fact here. Let's take Yu-Gi-Oh! For instance. Yu-Gi-Oh! Has two different formats you can play in. There's advanced or there's traditional. Everyone you've ever seen and any like deck profile you ever see made follows advanced format. Like, it's the reason Monster Reborn wasn't included in decks, at least until, last year when it got unbanned? Everyone follows advanced, and really only, super duper casuals use traditional. So, it could be something like that, and where ultras are just kind of kept as a more complicated mechanic for the advanced format. But, again, anything's possible. We still really don't know anything about this yet. This is all speculation.
Yeah. I think that's all we have for speculation about the rules.
Well, I think with that, we'll stop wasting everybody's time and let's just end the podcast right here. Thanks for joining us on episode 2. I have been Darkest Master.
And I have been Hato, the one which actually found the prices, which are exclusive to the Bakugan Wiki Podcast.
I've been Siwadai, and I've contributed barely anything.
And
That's okay.
I've been held at gunpoint this entire time. Please call the police.
Please don't call the police. Siwadai is the slave, not Rigatoni.
Oh,
No, they're lying.
See y'all next time. I just need to keep making these two do my work.